People are looking to eat healthier, and we did that. But then we realized that people on a Friday night or a Sunday evening or a Saturday evening are less likely to order a healthy meal over a biryani or a pizza. If you want to build a very large business, you have to find 5-6 such segments and go equally deep. We figured that if you find a brand which has good ratings, a good entrepreneur, and a sound business model, if we acquire that brand and put that into all our kitchens, the revenue multiplies. So it's a combination of art, science, and commerce. And if you cannot get all three right, it'll be very tough.
Could you introduce yourself and tell us what you're building today?
I'm Ankit. I'm the founder of Curefoods. I have been building in the internet industry for the last 18 years.
You've been in the internet industry for nearly 2 decades. How has that journey shaped you as a founder?
I founded Curefoods almost 5.5 years back. But like I said, I've been part of the internet startup industry for close to 2 decades now.
Now, walk us through your childhood days.
Yes.
How were you as a kid?
Take us back to your childhood and college days at IIT. You had a well-established family business waiting for you. What made you walk away from it and build something from scratch?
Right. So childhood was like fun, how it should be. I spent my early years in Bokaro, which was a township, and then moved to Delhi when I was 5-6 years old. Went to Delhi Public School, Vasant Kunj, got exposure to great things in life, being in Delhi. It was a fairly cosmopolitan city even back then. And then got introduced to the idea of, going to studying for IIT. I used to play a lot of cricket growing up, but of course had to make a choice and chose academics over cricket, and then went to IIT Guwahati. Spent the best 4 years of my life there and played a lot of cricket, and also got introduced to a lot of internet based businesses, started reading a lot about those kind of companies, started exploring opportunities there, and that's how I decided to be an internet entrepreneur. But at the same time, I have a family business. My father had a family business, but I never was sure about doing that because I wanted to create something of my own. And very early in IIT itself, I figured that internet is the power, back then and even now. Now, of course, AI is the buzzword. Likewise, internet was the buzzword then, and figured that with that medium, a lot can be done. And that was the inspiration for me to start my internet businesses.
And in one of your interviews, you mentioned that you had poll emailed the founders of Flipkart.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us about that story?
Yeah, I've spoken about it a lot of times now. I think that's a very standard way of reaching out to people, right? Like you just write a cold email saying, I want to work with you guys. Flipkart was a big name back then. Even in 2009, it was a really big brand. It was a big brand because one of the largest startups then. Even then, it was the largest startup. Even today, I would say is the largest internet company in the country. So with that, the idea was to just find a way to work with Flipkart and learn. And I wrote an email to Binny, and then I think he responded and met a few people at Flipkart, and it worked out. You always need a stroke of luck, like that mail could have gone unanswered, but I got a response, and I also made sure that I responded quickly and made sure I go meet them at the quickest.
You once cold emailed the founders of Flipkart and it changed your career. Walk us through that story. What did you write and what happened next? How did you and Mukesh Bansal come together to build Curefit? And what made you eventually step away from something you co-created to spin off EatFit as an independent company?
Absolutely. No, so Mukesh and I met when Flipkart Myntra merger happened in late 2014, and we immediately, clicked pretty well purely because a lot of common interest, a lot of common topics, and we when we had spent enough time at Flipkart and he had completed the Myntra merger, there was a clear chatter between the two of us that let's find new opportunities which can be Flipkart scale. Where all can we use internet to disrupt that particular industry. Globally, health is one of the largest industries, and we set out to build Curefit, where Cult was one of the brands and EatFit was one of the other brands. And of course, things were going very, very well, where pandemic put a brake on a lot of our expansion, and it took us a lot of time to recover from that. Kudos to the current Cult team to have bounced back so well, and now it's back with full steam. But also at that time, we had to make our choices on what businesses to focus on and what not, right? And EatFit was one business which I thought had a lot of potential, which we continue to build. But of course, as companies have to make choices on resource allocation, we decided to spin off EatFit to be able to raise independent fundraise. And that's what was the trigger to split the journey into CultFit and EatFit, where CultFit was on its own journey and continues to be on its own journey, and EatFit, of course, is now been a 6-year journey where we've raised independent capital. EatFit has since then become a multi-brand platform, which is Curefoods, of course, and we continue to now have both online and offline brands, while EatFit was an online-only brand. So, yeah.
You started as a healthy food company, but at some point, you realized that health alone wouldn't build a billion-dollar business. What was that insight that changed your strategy?
So
Yeah, see, when we started EatFit during the pandemic, the thesis was very clear that people are looking to eat healthier, people are more mindful right now, people need supply to good quality food. And we did that. We rebuilt the business from, a very small number to a large number again. And by the time the second wave of pandemic was done, business was okay, not bad. But then we realized that, there are we have set out a large store, a large dark store, which has people working in it, which has a lot of equipment, a lot of raw material, but we get orders only in certain slots. And that was the nature of the health food business, like people on a Friday night or a Sunday evening or a Saturday evening are less likely to order a healthy meal over a biryani or a pizza. And that's the reality of the market, right? If you're building a large business, you cannot just choose one small segment and try to go very deep. That's a good way to launch your business. That's a good way to continue building. But if you want to build a very large business, you have to find 5-6 such segments and go equally deep. And that's what we've been doing. We figured that health will probably, help us with 35% slots. If I divide the full week into 100% slots, 35% slots, people will look to order healthy. But then there are slots when they want to eat a pizza or a biryani or a dessert or just a regular breakfast, which is not very healthy, like idli, dosa, vada. It's very good repeatable food. I eat that frequently, but people with health goals may or may not eat that. So, but we cannot ignore that market, right? So we said, okay, we need to figure out the entire meal slots, and make sure that our kitchens are fully running all the time, because that's how you make a profitable business. High utilization, high throughput. And that's how we figured that we need to definitely have a biryani brand, definitely have to a pizza brand, need to have more forms of health food, not just EatFit. EatFit is more like protein and gym food. Now it's of course evolved to a more Indianized health food. And then we have Millet Express, which is a gluten-free brand. And then we've got a bunch of dessert brands and South Indian brands as well, because we cannot ignore the breakfast slot. So idea was to just get maximum share of wallet from the customers, maximum throughput for the kitchens, and opportunity to build brands in each segment, right? In every segment in India, probably there are 5, 6, 7 brands. But for a population that is like over 1 billion people and almost 70 lakh online orders a day, you can build like a number 5 brand in each segment and slowly aim to be number 2, number 1 in each segment. So.
Where did the house of brands idea come from? Why did you choose to start as a franchisee before acquiring anything? And once you began acquiring, what were your criteria for what to buy?
Yes. Yes. No, I think the House of Brands idea came exactly from there, that if you need to be multi-cuisine, you cannot be selling a dosa, idli, sambar in a EatFit brand. While you can, if it's a healthy version, you can, but people don't function like that. People want to have a specialized brand for every segment. Like our biryani brand, Sharif Bhai Biryani, one of the largest biryani brands in Bangalore. We need to have a Sharif Bhai brand. Our pizza brand Olio, which is one of the top brands now in many cities, you cannot not have a brand. So we realized that to build a large business, you need brands. And I think in food is a lot like fashion or art, where you require the creator, you require serendipity, you require effort. And if you can find the right person or the right team who's built even a small food business, then you can accelerate that. So idea was to test the multi-brand, multi-cuisine model, and we didn't want to acquire first. We thought that the best way to do that would be to just take a franchisee or partner with an existing brand whom we can give our supply chain and infrastructure. And if the thesis of multiple brands giving better throughput to kitchen works out, then we will acquire or build our own brands. So Yumlane was that. That was the first brand partnership we did, where we partnered with a pizza brand, and we saw that there is natural demand on a Friday night, Saturday evening, Sunday afternoon, something which we were missing. And we said, okay, now that's a good thesis. Then we tried that for a dessert brand, which we acquired on day one, Cake Zone. And since then, we figured that if you find a brand which has good ratings, a good entrepreneur, and a sound business model, if we acquire that brand and put that into all our kitchens, the revenue multiplies. And that's what the machinery was. The criteria was very simple. The brand has to have a brand love. Customers should love the brand. It should not be something which is not loved by some segment. It has to be something for some segment. It cannot be like it's a okay brand for a very large audience. If a small segment also really likes that brand, we will acquire it, and then we'll find more pockets of that segment across cities. So that's what the thesis has been. Since then, we've acquired half a dozen brands, and many of them have grown 5x, 10x, 20x with us. And now we are open to acquiring and franchising. Of course, we are now franchisees of Krispy Kreme and Papa Cream. Krispy Kreme is the donut brand, Papa Cream is the ice cream brand, and we believe that with our footprint of 500 locations, now adding revenue to these brands is very easy. We just have to take these brands to all our locations and also open some more offline stores, which we keep doing, and our revenue will multiply.
What does the math of a profitable cloud kitchen look like? How important is the orders per kitchen per slot metric to your model?
Yeah, for us, order per kitchen is of course an important metric, but more important is order per kitchen per slot. Like I said, for us to be a profitable kitchen, we need almost 180 orders a day, and there are some 12 meals slots, I would say, from 8 a.m. To 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then I would say 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Then 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and then 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. So then about 8 to 12 hours of operations. For us, it's very, very important that we get 15 to 20 orders as an average, which would mean in peak slots 30 to 40 orders, and in lean slots 10 orders. So again, for us, making sure that we get 10 orders at 8 a.m., 10 orders at 9 a.m., 25 orders at 1 p.m., 25 orders at 2 p.m. So this is how you design the whole kitchen, model. That okay, you need to have a breakfast brand, you need to have a dessert brand, because dessert post 11 p.m. is a reality. A lot of people order. From 5 to 7 p.m. you need to have some snacks, you need to have some beverages. So the business structure is such that getting 180 orders a day is bare minimum. And if you cross 250 orders, then you're a significantly profitable kitchen per day. And that 250 will not come from one brand or one slot. You have to really, go very granular on figuring out which slot and which brand will give that. And that's what we do. Yeah.
And Swiggy and Zomato is your
Yes.
biggest partner
Yes, of course.
and your biggest risk.
Yeah.
And most of your orders are dependent on Swiggy and Zomato.
Yeah, about 70% of our orders come from Swiggy and Zomato. Yes.
Nearly 70% of your orders come from Swiggy and Zomato.
Yes.
Are they your biggest partners or your biggest risk? And how do you manage that relationship?
No, so I think Swiggy and Zomato, I disagree that they're a risk. See, it's like any healthy relationship, there'll be a push and pull, there will be interests of each party, but then finally they always converge to a common ground. We've been working with them for almost 7-8 years now. EatFit one before pandemic and post EatFit also, post pandemic also. So I think those platforms have created immense value for every food entrepreneur. Of course, there is a push and pull on commissions and marketing and all of that, but I don't see it any different from how a seller on Flipkart would operate, or on Amazon will operate. I think all these marketplaces model provide a lot of opportunities to entrepreneurs, but also is a great earning model for these platforms. So that's the balance you have to figure out. If you run a tight ship, if you run a good business, there's enough money to be made on these platforms. It is getting tougher purely because the macros are such. The delivery costs are expensive. The current war situation has led to LPG being expensive, food inflation. So as a food entrepreneur, I think these are testing times in general. But singling out Swiggy or Zomato, saying that they are a risk to our business, no. I think in India's food market, I think the consumption pattern to continue. I think we cannot afford a consumption slowdown in the country right now, which is not only an India issue, it can be a global macro issue. But if the consumption flywheel continues, I think Swiggy and Zomato, and now Only, which is the platform from Rapido, will be huge companies and providing immense opportunities for single kitchen entrepreneurs as well.
And any one advice you can give to these aspiring founders who would want to build the same business model as you?
Yeah, I think in food, it is not a supply chain business as people think. A lot of people think that cracking the supply chain on food will give you a successful food business. It is as much commerce, science, and art as anything else. So it's a combination of art, science, and commerce. And if you cannot get all three right, it'll be very tough. So you may have the best samosa, but if you don't have the right supply chain, it won't work. But if you have the best supply chain, but average tasting samosa, no one will come out for it. So I'm saying it is very important to get the product right every single day, and getting the supply chain every single day. If you have samosa and chutney somehow did not get delivered to the outlets, you will get zero sales. So it's just very difficult, and finding that balance between art, science, and commerce is very important.
Thank you, Ankit. It was lovely.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.